Many of you who know my channel know that I like games that make me feel something, that have an emotional impact of some kind. But when I heard about the game Unpacking, well, to be honest, the very idea of it sounded dreadful. I mean, the title basically tells you what it is. It's a game in which you unpack boxes after somebody moves home, arguably the worst thing about moving. To be honest, this game should be awful. And sure, the developers describe it as a zen puzzle game, and I sometimes do like whiling away a bit of time with these kind of games to distract me. So I thought I might, at best, enjoy a couple of hours on it, and then uninstall it and never play it again. But this one? Unpacking? Well, I did not expect for it to have an emotional impact on me, to leave me thinking. Nor did I expect to be sat here making a video to say how Unpacking's use of storytelling is not only brilliant, but it's something that other games, particularly the AAA industry, should very much take note of. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy and welcome to this episode of the Indie Files, the series in which we take a deep dive into what makes an indie game special. Before we get started, please don't forget to smash that like button, as it really does help me out, and also give me any recommendations of other games that you think I should take a deep dive into. I want to know about the indie games that you love. But now, without any further ado, let's take a look at what makes Unpacking so special. So the reason I found this game was thanks to a recommendation by a friend on my Discord channel who said they'd been addicted to this game called Unpacking. Now, I don't think I'd really ever heard of it before and, well, it didn't really register. But then I'm perusing things on Game Pass and there it was staring me in the face and I thought, well, let's go for it. What the hell? At the worst, I can just uninstall it. And like I said in the introduction to this video, as little hope as I had, I thought, well, you know, I do like spending some time on puzzle games. And after just a few hours, I realised just how magical this game is, because it has a completely different approach to storytelling. Something that, yeah, we've seen to a lesser degree in some of the games, but Unpacking has managed to maximise the use of environmental storytelling, which in turn makes it incredibly thought-provoking. In the experience, there are no characters that you meet, there's no dialogue, there's no NPCs, there's barely any words other than a quick summary of the level, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and you don't even meet the protagonist, which probably makes you wonder how I can justify saying that this game has an amazing story. Well, each stage of the game is set in a new room or series of rooms. From the environment that you're playing in, the things that you unpack, and in turn the things that you don't, you get an incredible idea of who the character is that the things belong to. In short, the game trusts you to deduce the story. So the setup in terms of mechanics, yep, pretty simple. You have a view of the room, some boxes that you have to open, and then you have to put the things that come out of the boxes, in a random order, into the right places. Some things are in the wrong boxes, which is pretty true to life in my case, so you need to switch them to the other rooms, and while I think there is some level of leeway to exactly where you put the items that you need, they need to be roughly in the right place. For example, you can't put a book on the stove, and most items need to be put away neatly, for example in shelves or pants put in drawers, and by pants I'm talking about the British pants as in underwear. Leaving a t-shirt on the bed is just not acceptable, which means that my house would prove an absolute disgrace. Now I have to admit there is something really satisfying about putting things in the right place, especially when you don't have to consider lugging them around and damaging your back. In terms of the puzzle mechanics though, this game is pretty chill and satisfying. I did feel completely relaxed. And when you finally put everything into what you think is the right place, the game tells you which items are in the wrong place by highlighting them in red, and it won't let you complete the level until you've got it right, which occasionally was a little bit annoying, as even when I zoomed in, I couldn't tell exactly what one or two of the things were, or where they had to go, but after a series of trial and error, I kind of worked it out. After the game is satisfied with what you've done and you've done a good job, it lets you continue. And to summarise the stage, it takes a photo which it enters into a photo album with a little sentence to summarise it. The only writing you really get. And also you get a little picture, like a sticker, which is also symbolic of what is happening in the character's life. Now, too often in games for me, we have hand-holding, and often that extends to the storytelling. Sometimes it's crude expositions or a character like an NPC that gives you vital information just to guide you on your way. Unpacking gives you zero of that. The game takes place between the years 1997 and 2018, and now I will try to avoid too many spoilers, partially because I think that this game is something you should experience for yourself, and also because the thought-provoking nature of it doesn't really relate to any individual spoilers. However, what constitutes as a spoiler for me may not be for you, so you have been warned, but I promise I will try my best not to tell you too much. So, like I said, you start off in Unpacking in a single room. It's a child's bedroom. You're unpacking things like toys, things to do homework, games, and also the kid's diary. It's all kind of sweet, but when the next stage rolls on, it becomes apparent that you're travelling through that person's life, the child's life, and unpacking them in certain homes over the course of time. From the places that you see and the invisible people your invisible character moves in with, you get a fair understanding of who that person is. You can see their financial development and the stages of their lives. But really, it's the items that you pull out of the boxes that give you the most clues. The clothes that they have in the wardrobes, well, that tells you their fashion styles. A work uniform tells you their jobs. And you can see from the items that you put on the desks and shelves what their hobbies are and what their dreams are. And I could at this point give you specific examples, but again, spoilers. I suppose one that doesn't really give anything away is a ukulele. Clearly, our character enjoys playing a little bit of music. Oh, and they're a gamer. There, that's 2 snippets that I learnt. But for example, that ukulele, once it appeared for the first time, it started coming up in other stages too. Our character decided that the ukulele was important. They became emotionally attached, and by proxy, in each stage, I started looking for the repetition of certain items. When they appeared, I was happy our character had kept them, and when they didn't, I could see in which ways our character had moved on, the journey that they were taking. And when the credits rolled, I felt that I had a complete understanding of who the character was, the person whose life that I had been unpacking. And for me, that is the mark of an incredible storytelling, because it didn't force feed me any information. It didn't give me anything other than the clues that I had to deduce along the way as to who the person was. It is the finest example of environmental storytelling that I've ever seen, and something that honestly I think other games should take note of. I enjoy when a game tests my brain and makes me think. While some games do use environmental storytelling, I haven't seen it used this fully, and I think too often developers fear that we just won't get what they're trying to say. But now let's talk about why this game is so thought-provoking. Well, throughout the experience, like I said, I got that fair understanding of who the character was, and it led me to think about all the times that I had moved home, the things that I'd packed and taken with me, and also the things that I'd decided were no longer valuable. I kind of wonder what happened to the things that got lost along the way, and the things that are in my house that I just don't need. But like that ukulele, we often find we become emotionally invested in items that we pick up through our lives. For example, in my house, I have a painting of a place in the middle of Brazil. I picked it up while I lived out there, and for me, that place has a sentimental value. Therefore, that painting is something that I have become emotionally invested in. It's a material good that I just don't want to part with. Now, as a caveat, my wife doesn't particularly like this painting, and I know that at some point it will leave the main house and end up in my office. But she also understands how important this painting is to me, which is probably why it hasn't found its way into a bin. The point that I'm trying to make is that at some point that painting not only became significant for me, but by proxy it became significant for her. The game got me thinking about what the items that we have and the items that we leave behind say about us. The things that I owned that were oh so valuable at one point became superfluous at another. Something vital lost its value and ended up in a bin, or probably a charity shop. The clothes that I wear that are in my wardrobe, what do they tell you about my personality? Well, sure, they can tell you my shape, my height, my choice of colours, and yep, I have a Batman shirt, which probably says something about me. I also have a Mario shirt, and so on, but I guess you'd know that I was a gamer and a Batman fan from that. But from the clothes you can tell more about styles, their favourite fashions, maybe their music choice, and whether I'm flamboyant, treat clothes as an extension of my personality, or just for functionality. We often like to think that the things that we buy are kind of defined by our personality. And I know this is a slightly morbid thought, but long after I'm gone, and some of the things I have left behind, what will they tell people about who I was when I can no longer speak for myself? I suppose the question that I'm left wondering, thanks to the thought-provoking nature of this game, is, do we define our things, or do our things define us? And of course, I thought about all the places I'd lived, the people that I'd met, the people that I'd lived with, the people that I'd loved and lost, and my journey through life to this point. And for me, this is a mark of a masterpiece of storytelling. Because not only did I get something from the story of this game, but I was left thinking and reflecting long after I let go of the mouse. And yes, in terms of replayability, well, I kind of know where all the things go now, and, you know, as beautiful as the game is and as wonderful as the soundtrack is, I probably honestly won't play this again, but for that time that I played it, the experience that I have to say that this was an amazing experience. Not all games need to be played to death. So there you have it. Unpacking, a game that I had zero expectations of and shocked me by taking me on a journey both in and out of the game. Let me know again your favourite game and what you think that says about you. But from me today, all it leaves me to say is thank you very much for watching, and this is Roy McCoy, out!